Hello, my too muchies. We're trying something new today. I decided to sit on my couch today because it felt more comfortable. And I don't know, we'll see how it goes. My friend got me this really cool laptop tripod stand, which has changed the game in terms of where I can shoot this. You don't even want to know what I was using before, like some makeshift stand. So we've upgraded. I'll show you the behind the scenes. And it's small changes, big improvements. That's what life is really all about. So shout out Jess for hooking me up with that, which is why I can shoot from here today. So my intern and I were having a chat, and we thought it'd be fun to do more solo episodes in which I talk about career stuff. There's a lot of lessons because I've changed industries 4 times. I've tried a lot of things. I've taken really big swings and failed. There's probably some stuff I can share just based on the diversity of experiences I've had and still being relatively young. So I'm distilling some of the stuff that I wish people had told me that I've only recently figured out, and I want to share that with you. So today's episode is going to cover a couple things. Oh, but before we start, you know what's so fun? I've been reading Susie Welch's Becoming You book, which fingers crossed she'll be on the podcast next year. That's the goal. And in the back of her book, and she took this from someone else, I forget who, but there was a few years ago, this Twitter phenomenon in which people were writing these 6-word memoirs. And so Susie Welch suggests that you do one from where you are right now and where you want to be. So 2 6-word memoirs. I thought this was really fun. It was a really helpful exercise to contextualize your life. So my 6-word memoir ideas for where I am now. The first one was becoming who you are takes time. The next one was life doesn't go according to plan. The third one was you will get there, I promise. And say I accomplish everything I choose or that I want to in this lifetime. These were the ones that I liked. She found herself change the world. You did the damn thing, babe. And small steps and a big impact. Like this laptop stand I have now. Tripod. Full circle, babes. Full circle. Small steps, big impact. Anyways, I thought that was a fun thing, and you might enjoy doing it before we delve into what we're doing today. Because really what we're talking about today is 2 things. So I guest spoke at a university a couple weeks ago, and a couple things came up that I thought were really interesting. And today we're going to delve into one of these ideas. And so as I was meeting with these undergrads, a lot of what seemed to be tickling their brain or seemed to be what they were questioning was, in interviews or say you're pitching somebody, how do I do that effectively? And I'm getting really stressed out at this idea of advocating for ourselves or not looking like we're bragging or making sure we say the right thing. And I just want to make it clear that we're all just people. If someone has done a lot career-wise that you admire, that's great, but they're still just a human and a person. And we all have to remember that when we're interviewing or when we're pitching somebody, we are the experts of ourselves. No one knows us better than we know ourselves. And so when you're interviewing, you can't say anything wrong because you're speaking from your lens and your perspective. And part of an interview is to see how people think. And your specific way of thinking may be the right fit. And if it's not the right fit, guess what? Rejection is protection. Then it wasn't the right work environment for you. And so I think we just remember we are the experts of ourselves. We do not feel shy when pitching or shy when interviewing. We're overthinking so many things. Even pitching, this one girl told me she was running a production collective of 20 people. She was like, well, if I write in this thing that I'm, a producer, but I'm also an undergrad. And I'm like, but you are a producer. You're running this production company. doesn't matter if people are volunteering their time. It's still 20 people you're managing, running a production. You're making stuff. You are a producer. And we just let ourselves get in our own way sometimes, where we can be many things at once. I interned every semester of college, and then I worked full-time my senior year. And actually, my senior year, I was still going to school, night school, and I was working this job. You choose how you identify, you choose how you lead, and there is no right or wrong. So that was just one thing I noted a couple weeks ago that I wanted to share that I think was helpful, because people get so nervous, and it's like, you're just doing you. You're just showing up as you. And there's no way to show up as you that is wrong. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is this idea of being unafraid to be a beginner. What I've been witnessing is there's a lot of women that feel this need to be perfect before they try something or do something. And Doechii said it best. She did this clip, she was interviewed, where she was like, I'm allowed to be bad when I first start something. And we're allowed to be bad when we start things. And I loved that, because actually if you've watched Doechii's career from where she started to where she is now, you can see her growth as an artist. You can see how she finds herself and steps into this superpower of being one of the greatest performers I've witnessed in my lifetime. If she had felt she had to be at that level before she started, we would never have Doechii. And I'm so happy we do. But this is really the key, is being a beginner is literally the point of life. Because even when you think you know shit, you don't know anything. I don't know anything. I spent years thinking I knew so much, and I knew jack diddly squat. Like, I've just keep learning, and I come to this place where now I'm judging myself less by trying new things. And so, for example, when my company went under, I had very little to give. I was just really trying to keep myself afloat, and the way that I did that was like, I'm going to explore everything I tried when I was a kid that I was told I was bad at. So singing and writing. I started taking vocal lessons with a friend of mine who now is Billie Eilish's vocal coach. So obviously he's doing really well. But he also like lives in his genius. He's one of the best teachers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I came in just being like, I am doing this for fun. There's no goal here. I have a dream that one day maybe we host a live podcast recording, and I open us up with a VMA style opening number. Oh, hi Tokyo. Welcome to the chat. Can you get comfortable? Great. You look great. I love singing. If I could sing, I would have been a singer. Like, I find singing combines writing, dancing. So it's like DJing. I'm a writer. It would have been the ultimate life path for me. Unfortunately, I wasn't gifted with a voice. And what's also crazy, the stuff that I love to sing is the vocally crazy challenging stuff that if I were to sing, I'd have a very specific, probably like folky, that'd probably be my lane. It's just not 100% where I'm drawn to as someone who loves pop music and someone who loves really heartfelt, crazy belts and ballads. But I took this, I was like, let me just have fun. Let me take voice lessons. So I jumped in taking voice lessons, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about breath. As a speaker, I learned a lot. There was just so much stuff about anatomy that I found so interesting, of how if we hold our mouth a certain way, how much more breath we get, how we can deliver the sound differently. And over the course of a few months of me singing mediocrely, like, the point was never to sing good. I remember he turned to me, my teacher, and he said, Denise, that was actually good. And we're like 8 months in, and I said, good? That was actually good? Good was never on the table. The goal was tolerable, because one day I will be doing, from here to the universe's ears, I will be doing a live podcast recording, and we will open it up with a VMA style opening number where I will dance and hopefully sing if I can continue to do lessons with him. That's a silent little bucket list dream of mine, is that one day I do this VMA style opening number. So this is really why I got voice lessons. I was like, I'm training for this moment that I have no idea when it's going to happen, but it's on the bucket list of life that I would like to do that and carry that, because I was never given a solo song in my middle school and high school musicals or my theater summer camp because I was just not as good of a singer as the rest of my peers. And so the point of this was that I never aspired to be good. I did it for joy and I had so much fun doing it. And then 8 months in, when you cultivate a craft, you get better no matter what. I'm never going to be Mariah Carey. That's not the point. But to get to a place where it felt palatable to someone's ears showed me that you can be born bad at something or not have a great gift for it, but we all can get better. So the next thing that I dove into as a beginner was writing. So I was on a little mini European DJ tour a couple years ago, and I had a gig in London, a gig in Paris, and I stopped in Barcelona in between because sometimes I like to do a little solo travel and soak up new possibility. And in Barcelona, I'd never been to Barcelona. I've been to other parts of Spain, and I wanted to see all the Gaudis that existed in Barcelona. And so I was just walking, 20,000 steps a day by myself, looking at Gaudi after Gaudi after Gaudi, and then eating and drinking by myself and just, being curious. And one of the things I witnessed, this is why I solo travel, is because getting to a place of, and when I say solo travel, this can be, it doesn't have to be Barcelona, it doesn't have to be Europe. This can be 20 minutes from your house somewhere you've never been, because it really is this magical merging of new stimuli with solitude. And when you have new stimuli with solitude, your brain ticks differently. And so it operates differently. You're in this place of like, you can create more, I think, original thought, but you also have more brain space because you're on vacation, you're by yourself, and you're just open. And so I find that when I solo travel and I'm walking and walking and walking and walking is a big piece of this, is that I have different creative ideas come in, which is why now I really prioritize this idea of taking a couple of days by myself somewhere new, because I tend to find I have a new creative thought. So even this solo podcast episode, I was solo traveling in June. That's how solo podcast episodes started, was because I had this download walking around, hiking, realizing that this was the next piece of the too much puzzle. And so I was in Barcelona walking, and all of a sudden I get this little download and I'm like, oh no, it's a book. Oh no, it's a book. I don't want to write a book. I'm not a writer. I've been told I was bad at writing my whole entire life. I'm not a great writer. I have a lot of ideas. It's hard for me to synthesize them in a clear way, or so I thought. And I walked around all day resisting this idea that maybe I had a book to write. Now, let me be clear. I always thought I'd write a book, but I thought it would happen when I was 50, and I always assumed a ghostwriter would be involved. But what I know of myself is that I call it like intuitive tapping. So any of my great ideas that have come, I believe, channeled from the universe, download through me, have been these it's like a tap at the back of my brain that doesn't go away. And in the past, I was very good at ignoring them. And then I would be forced to answer the call at some point. But now I know better. I know what that feels like. I can recognize it more quickly. And I think it's a mechanism of intuition, which is hopefully going to be written about in this book. And maybe I'll do an episode on intuition and how you can find it. If that's interesting, if you guys want that, please let me know. There's a lot of different tactics to find your intuition and to listen to it more wholeheartedly, which is such a big key to living our own pathway, is understanding our intuition, because that is our internal compass of where our life should go. And if we are not listening to it, we are probably listening to society or the people around us. And that is not the compass we want to live by, because we are here to live our own unique life. And so this is my little mechanism. So it was tapping the back of my brain. It was like, it's a book, it's a book, it's a book. And I was like, ugh, fucking book. I gotta write this fucking book. And so I went back to my hotel room and I started writing. And then I got back from Barcelona and I said, you don't know how to write a book. Girl, all you've done is write like a 15-minute talk. You think you're going to write this book? So I Googled writing coaches, and there's a piece on my Substack about this as well called On Writing, if you want to read that story. And so I found this writer Sherpa, as she called herself, that helps people understand writing and how to write a book and coaching. And so I reached out, and Julie has a very similar philosophy to me, life philosophy. So she obviously has many course options, coaching, all different price points. But as I went through her website, one of the things she said was if financially this is out of your budget, she works on a sliding scale and she doesn't turn people away. And not that that applied to me, but this idea of generosity and giving people tools that may not have the financial means to have the tools really speaks to my core value system, because I don't think that money should be the reason you get the tools. When I look at some of these practitioners, they'll have like a free course, but then it's like $8,000 to coach with them. I brush up against this idea of like, why does the person that have $8,000 deserve that level of access to you more so the person that doesn't? And so I don't like the hierarchy of capitalism and money. I think everyone deserves great tools to step into the fullest versions of themselves. And we need to have sliding scales and accessibility. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to perpetuate a world of privileged worldviews. And that's not necessarily a world I want to live in. And so I really liked that about Julie's philosophy. It really spoke to me. So I emailed her and I started working with her. And as a lot of us do when we don't feel confident about a skill set that we have, I would start well, first of all, let me explain the structure before I even talk about that. So the structure of this was every 3 weeks a month, we meet for 30 minutes and we go over 5 pages. 5 pages, like 15 pages a month. When I started writing, I was like, 15 pages? You got to be kidding me. How do I even write 5 pages? It was so beyond the idea of my current capability. And our first meeting, I walked in low confidence. I don't know what I'm doing here. I think I have ideas, but can I write them well? I was like, I'm not a writer, Julie. I'm a speaker, but I have to write this book. I know I do. So I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. And of course, Julie, classically great Sherpa she is, was like, you're a writer. I can tell already. And as we started working together, she kept reaffirming that statement. You're a writer. This is good. This is interesting. And one of the things that Julie said, that I started writing this book from a more sort of clinical standpoint. I am not a social scientist, but I aspire to be. Like maybe one day, if a university wants to work on a methodology together, I would be very available to that idea of having a lot of research and data around some of the things I talk about. Also, I'm having deja vu right now, which means we are in the right place at the right time, my friends. But I'm not a social scientist, but I started writing my book with that lens. I love research. I love data. I do. So I want to ground my work in these ideas and not just have it be like, here's my life experience and here's how I came to that conclusion, which is valid. But I also believe that nothing is really new. And so whatever I'm thinking about has been thought about by other people. So how do I ground this idea in other people's work? I love this idea of sharing knowledge, that it's not me trying to own an idea. It's me talking about these ideas as they pertain to me, but also here's other great thinkers who have thought about it in a different way, or here's where the genesis of my thought came, and then this is how it evolved from this person's perspective. So I appreciate aggregation of knowledge. And as I kept meeting with Julie, Julie was like, I just want more of your story, more of your story. And I was really resistant, partly because, I don't know, I guess we all don't think of ourselves as that interesting or that I know more than anybody else. And I had to get a little more comfortable with sharing personal stories. I mean, as a speaker, I'm very personal. I share a lot of very vulnerable things. But as a writer, for some reason, it felt a little more scary. And now that's how I write. But so let's go back a bit. So, and sorry if this is a little bit convoluted. I'm just trying to give you the pertinent information so you have all the context at the right time. And so I worked with Julie probably a little over a year. And then it became time to write my book proposal. And so at this point, having worked with Julie for over a year, having met with her once a week for almost over a year, 15 pages a month, what's amazing is, it's like I'm going to cry. I feel like I'm going to cry. I became a writer. And I didn't even know like how much I would love writing. I felt like a really beautiful counterpoint to my speaking, where I speak on these stages. You get this 15-minute thing that I would think about, but then writing, I can write about whatever I want, whenever I want. I don't have to wait for this stage to want to have me for 15 minutes to talk about it. I can just write whatever I feel like writing about. And some of it's really personal and vulnerable and memoir-esque. Some of it's political. Some of it's cultural takes on how do we live and dream up into this world? Like, how do we write our dreams about what we want this world to be, and me looking at trends and figuring out, just like really throwing out ideas. It's become this really freeing space in which I feel like it's cementing. I didn't have a proper outlet for a lot of these ideas that I have. I'll talk about them a lot in conversation, but I didn't have a place for them to live in perpetuity. So now I have this Substack that I'm really proud of, that has just been this labor of love. Also talk about, after I did the solo podcast episodes, that's when I launched the Substack, was to have this text version of the solo podcast, and it just naturally evolved. But also it felt like people really loved it. I don't think I've ever, I'm like, I don't know why I'm so emotional. But I don't think I've ever done something in my career that just felt really loved by people. Like maybe DJing. Like I do feel like I had a lot of warm reception in DJing, but I also feel like there's a lot of criticism around DJs. Not that I ever really experienced a lot of that, but I just didn't like that energy. And the thing about writing is I have just felt so welcomed into that world in a way that feels really nice after spending a lot of years like pushing in your career and not feeling like you were getting the give. We'll just walk into a space as a newbie with no expectation. That's part of what's cool about it, is I didn't come thinking I'm a good writer. I was like, I'm just going to try this thing. It's an experiment. And then to have it be warmly received felt really powerful. And that's really ultimately the power of writing and the power of being a beginner. Because had I not taken this chance to just do this book that I knew I didn't know how to write, that I knew was going to take a lot of work, I never would have found this new thing that fills my heart up so much. I deeply admire authors and poets, always have. I just never thought of myself as one. And so trying on that label has been really fun. And this is why I'm saying, like, be a beginner, because you have no idea how it's going to open up your world. And you try it, maybe you're bad at it, you don't like it. Maybe it's like my voice lessons, it goes nowhere. But maybe it's like my writing, and all of a sudden you open up this new pathway for yourself that you didn't believe you could do. And one of the things about working with Julie for that year and a half was showing up to the page, showing up to our sessions, built my confidence and my self-trust in my ability in a way that I didn't think about that much, because I just committed to Julie and I committed to the practice. And then over time, I was like, oh, maybe I am good at this. Or, hey, maybe I like this. And even my mom, who's one of these people that did not think I was a good writer when I was a kid, was not because I wasn't a good writer. It's also because the way that I think is complex. I'm a fast processor. I have a lot of ideas, and it was just really hard as a teenager to harness them all. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten more mastery over my brain and how it works. I've been able to slow down a bit. And so I've been able to harness the ideas better. And when that happened when I was a kid, it just came out like my brain was moving too fast, faster than I could write or type. And then the ideas would leave. So writing felt stressful because it felt like I could never fully say what I wanted to say because my brain was moving so fast. And now I have a little more control, so I can distill it and I can figure out how to do it. But even my mom said, you really are a great writer. And I think this is evident of like our capacity as humans to learn a new skill, get better, and grow and evolve. And so I don't want anyone to be afraid to try a thing, because it doesn't really matter if it works or doesn't work. It's an experiment. Life is an experiment. Life is tinkering. All we're here to do is figure out what we want our unique contribution to be, and to do that. And for me, writing felt elusive, and now it's a fundamental part of my contribution. And so I'm still tinkering away on that book proposal, but I'm getting closer, and this book will happen, whether it's 4 years from now or next year. The point is, it's going to happen, but I'm not judging that process either. I'm allowing myself to marinate in that process, because every time I sit with feedback or I sit with the writing process, I get better. I see it. I can see how I grow as a writer. So instead of being like, this has to be done, I'm in this place of, let me just make sure it's the best book I can write. And even with this last round of revisions on the proposal, I was a little annoyed because I was like, oh, I have to do it all again. And the proposals are long. My proposal's 85 pages. And I'm starting over. I'm going to pretend like I never wrote those 85 pages and start over because I think it's going to be a better book. I don't want to be clouded by what I did before. And the idea of an internal challenge that I can try again, this time it's going to be better. I have more clarity of my voice and what I want to say and how I want this book to feel. And yeah, it delays the timeline. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But I'm committed to doing the best work I can do. So be the beginner. Don't think you have to be perfect. Let yourself be bad at something for a while. I was pretty stinking bad at writing for the past 2 years. I've only recently really started to figure it out. And that's because Substack has allowed me to. Having a thing that I 3 to 4 times a month, I publish something that I have to feel like is good enough, has to be something that I think is of value to say, has pushed my writing practice in a way that I didn't anticipate, that has really elevated my writing. I still have 1,000 things to learn. I'm reading books about writing all the time. And then I have author friends who I read their Substacks. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they are masters. And I am like a wee little writing plebe. But it's a North Star because their mastery of language inspires me. And then it inspires me to do better. And I have an author friend. She wrote in her Substack about her upcoming book title. And it was just so good. It was such a good book title. And I was so jealous. I was like, my working book title sucks. And then I spent the entire next 2 days brainstorming new book ideas. And she doesn't even know. She doesn't even know that that thing she wrote challenged me to do better. And this is what's so cool about building a community of writers or people that are doing what you want to be doing, or your peers, or just people that you don't even know that are maybe setting a bar for you, is that I was able to see that and then challenge myself to do better so I could have a title I was more proud of. And this is why falling in love with the process and being a beginner rocks, because I don't really give a shit about anything other than challenging myself to be better. This process of writing is really me against me. I'm not really concerned in this comparison game. And I think I've spent a lot of my career caring about external achievement, and this new chapter of my career is really about internal fulfillment, which is what this podcast is all about, is helping people really get the tools to feel satisfied in their day-to-day life and not so concerned with, am I here yet, or am I here yet, or do I have this much money? That doesn't really matter. We're here to commit to our gift to the world, whatever it is, and just get better at it. And so be the beginner. I cannot recommend it enough. This whole year of my life has just been a boot camp in being a beginner again. Even this podcast, I used to have a team. I used to have sponsors. Now I'm doing it all by myself with my intern. And it's forcing me to grow in ways that I was hesitant to. I have to now learn about SEO, and I'm not really a good marketer. I'm a great brander and content person. I don't really know marketing. So I'm learning about marketing. I'm learning about all these tiny YouTube strategies and podcast strategies that I would never have been forced to learn about if I didn't feel compelled to do this podcast right now. And so speaking of, if you can subscribe and review and share an episode with a friend, it would really help us. We're really working on growing this puppy so everyone can live a more fulfilled life. But I really, truly appreciate all of you who tune in and share really thoughtful feedback. It really means a lot. But be the beginner. Step into your beginner shoes. And I promise, no matter what, you will learn something and it will benefit you. And that is where we're going to end today on this career advice episode. And thanks for bearing with me. I really did not expect to get emotional, but it's really been a gift this year. So being beginners, this is a gift for all of us. I appreciate you keeping too much, and I'll see you soon.